Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, let's be honest. I would not be the person that I am today if it wasn't for this amazing woman that is here with me tonight. I'm joined by the beautiful Sandy Johnson. Sandy, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
Oh, it's such an honor for me. For those of you that don't know Sandy, I want to catch you up a little bit because there is some misinformation out there about what she may or may not have been a part of. So let's catch you up real quick. Sandy is an amazing actress and model with some of her film credits, including Hots, Gas Pump Girls, Jokes My Folks Never Told Me, as well as the upcoming Pareidolia. And we'll talk about those in a second, but I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that if it wasn't for this beautiful woman, Sandy, sitting here with me, we would not be who we are in the Halloween universe because she was Judith Myers in Halloween 1978, the first victim of our beloved Michael Myers. So before we talk about your other films, Halloween 1978, I know you've had to talk about this for a couple days now, but what's it feel like to know that you were part of something just so iconic? Like, I know when you guys were filming, this was considered a low budget film, and people were worried about how it was going to turn out, if it was going to get picked up, and now you are cemented in history forever as Judith Myers, the OG kill. What does that feel like for you, Sandy?
Wow, it's honestly so amazing that it's kind of hard to describe because there's only one, and she's famous around the world. And I'm just so honored to be in that position, to be Michael Myers' sister and first kill, and a part of such a fabulous film in so many ways. It's, in film industry, they look to it for training and stuff. So that's just amazing. And I'm very proud to have that role.
So something I have always said, Halloween may not be my favorite franchise in the world. Psycho, Black Christmas, those really started the slasher genre. Halloween perfected what you need in a slasher. It's the perfect mix of villain and hero. It's the perfect mix of suspense, of anxiety, of fear. It knows when to play a score. It knows when to drop the sound. It knows how to start off with a bang. I mean, Halloween started off with one of the most iconic kills of all time. And I'm not just saying that because you're here. But when we talk about the best horror openings of all time, the top three that always come to mind: Scream, Jaws, and Halloween. Those movies showed you that you start your movie off and you get your audience hooked right away. No pun on the Jaws there. But you were part of what many people consider, and I can't argue with, the perfect slasher film. That is the prototype. And like I said, you could go back to Black Christmas. You got your original final girl and Jess there, but people talk about Laurie Strode as the final girl. And this is a film that you're a part of. You don't have Laurie Strode without Judith Myers to start everything off. So this is something that you are a part of forever. And I am so happy that this is something you've gotten to share throughout your life. Is this something that you've always been attached to whenever people meet you? Obviously, Halloween 78, is that one of the first things that people want to talk about with you?
Actually, I left Hollywood for a very long time and became a teacher, and just did a lot of other things. And it wasn't until 2018, right before that Halloween was released, that my current agent found me. So actually, I was living a whole different life. I really didn't know what was going on with Halloween. I was working with children with learning disabilities and just very involved with all of that, very consumed. And I just didn't, I lived in Texas. I was far away from the Hollywood scene. So I didn't really know until Rick and Reek reached out to me and said that he wanted to be my con agent. And I was very surprised that the franchise had grown like it has, and there were so many of them, and there were international fans. It was kind of all a shock to me. So because I'd never really shared that much, the people that knew me back then that I'm still friends with, of course, they knew and my family
Sure.
knew. But because I did work with children, I really didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
And so no, it's only been recently that it's become part of my life again. So no, most people don't know that about me.
It's amazing. And a real quick sidebar, side note, I spent a couple years of my life as a parapro, so I know what you went through. Thank you for trying to educate some of our children. It's not an easy job, and it's something that you take home with you every night. It's something you're worried about all the time. So I know that, especially now in this day and age, teachers catch a lot of bull crap, and I want to say thank you because I know that it's a lot of times a thankless job, and it's very, very hard. So thank you for the sacrifices that you made to help try to educate the youth and try to guide them in the right direction. It means a lot to me. Like I said, as someone who has an autistic daughter who's worked as a parapro, I know the struggle that it brings. So thank you for, doing that, because it's not easy. It is not easy to do. And you were talking about how you left Hollywood for a while, and you went and you became a teacher and you started a family, which is so amazing. I'm so happy for you, because there's two sides of the coin there. You get
Right.
the what happened in Hollywood, you have that part of your life, and then the family part is two completely different things. But pareidolia, as I said earlier, the upcoming. So I obviously, spoiler free, what can you tell us a little bit about pareidolia?
Pareidolia is it is filmed in the UK, and uh, Stuart Morris is the director, and it is, gosh, I don't know how much he would want me to tell you about it. I can tell you who I am in it. I am a late night DJ. So my voice comes in and out in different places when I'm talking about the music and this storm that's coming in. It has to do with a priest and some evil involved. It is a horror film, but I
Yes.
know it's going to be very good. It's got some great people in it. And then I actually have other films coming out. I was in one called Volps, which is a Hungarian film. And in that one, it's a cameo. It was filmed during COVID.
Mhm.
So in that one, I play the mom of a victim that's going to be a victim. It isn't when I'm chatting with him on the computer, but soon after he's a victim. And then another one called Halloween Slasher. And again, it was during COVID, so I was on a phone conversation, but you see me in it,
Sure.
not unlike the one with the radio. And then I have some other bigger projects coming up. So I'm very excited to be back in the industry again.
We are very excited to have you back. And one thing that you guys can do, you don't have to keep checking up with me to get updates on what Sandy is doing. You can follow her on social media by clicking the links down here in the description. That way you can stay up to date. When these films are coming out, you can be one of the first people to see her on her big comeback. And it's amazing how, like you said, you did these things and then you went and you did the personal stuff. You started your family and now you're back to doing this. Were there any points throughout your teaching career where you were like, man, I miss the camera?
Well, I'll tell you what I did was I put a lot of drama in my teaching. I did a lot of stuff with the kids that was, kind of over the top stuff.
Mhm.
So it was very dramatic what we did to keep them involved. And I think that was kind of satisfying for me
Sure.
because they loved it and we had fun and we did it all hands on and bigger than life so that they would stay tuned in. So I think that was kind of filling that in for me.
Yeah. And it's amazing that you've got to live that life even when you weren't, like you said, and kids will remember that. Children, when they have that teacher that goes the extra mile to do these things for them, they remember that stuff. Miss Bloom was that for me. All these years later, I still remember the impact she had on me. And she was my home ec teacher. I still can't cook for a lick, but she was amazing. And the way that she taught me has always stuck with me. So
Right.
now we know what you got going on in the future, Sandy, and we know what you're doing right now. But here for a minute, I want to go back to the past and I want to talk about what got you started in the horror genre, your first horror movie. And I got to say, real quick, we're almost to 400 episodes, guys. This is the first time I've had the privilege to talk about this movie. So, Sandy, the first movie you ever watched was
The Blob.
with the best opening title song of all time. So, talking about the Blob, if you guys haven't seen it, we are talking about the OG Blob from 1958. It is free on YouTube right now, and I have the link down in the description. So if you haven't seen it, I recommend you watching it because you're gonna have a blast with it. So, do you remember about how old you were the first time you had seen this, Sandy?
I remember it quite well because of the circumstances around the viewing of it. I was about 6,
Oh,
and I was with my dad and my older sister, one of them, and we were in Oklahoma at a drive-in
oh,
during a horrific storm.
talk about
So,
amping things up.
yeah, so I was in the back seat. They were in the front seat, and we're watching the Blob. Everything started out normal, and then this horrible tornado alley storm came. So I remember that night vividly.
Sure. And this is a movie that, as a young child watching this movie, there's a little bit of everything. There's a little bit of that space element. There's definitely action sequences. This is romance. It's horror. There's definitely some comedy sprinkled in here and there. This is a little bit of everything. It's kind of a genre bending film. Do you remember which scene it was from the Blob that affected you the most?
I think that because I was in a car at the drive-in and the speakers used to sit on the window, so there was a little crack right there. So when they were in the theater and I could see that it was coming through the cracks and things, I kept my eye on that speaker. I kept thinking that's how it was going to get in the car.
Yeah,
So I think the theater for me, because that's what I was doing, was
sure.
what really scared me.
And it's amazing because, like you said, you have the part where the Blob is first coming through that grate right there. And then obviously you see the projectionist, he succumbs to the Blob. And then the whole thing engulfs the theater coming out through that projectionist booth up there. And this is towards the climax of the film. But what I love about this film is the usage of stop motion, of practical effects, of dolls and houses. I think it's so much fun to go back and watch it. I would rather watch a film like this that was done practically with what they had at the moment than an overusage of CGI in a film. So it's fun to go back and watch this be recreated now in 2022, almost 2023. Oh wow. So this is a movie that it has stood the test of time. Like I said, 1958, we're still talking about it now. Do you remember what your favorite scene from the Blob was?
I kind of have always liked diners. I've always liked the look of diners. And so I really liked it, like when, what was it, Denny's that came out with that kind of that same design, like it's
Yeah.
in the Blob. So I think I liked that scene with the diner.
And it's actually so terrifying when you see the whole diner get overtaken. Like it literally takes up the whole diner. And I'm watching this movie again. I always watch these so I don't look like a goofball. But I'm watching it again and I'm like, I can't imagine being in a situation like this, where this foreign substance that nobody in this town will believe me about is completely engulfing this diner in front of me. Now, you said you watched this. Obviously, it was a traumatic time in your life because you're going through a bad storm and you're young. You're a young lady in a car to drive in. Was this a movie that you went back and revisited later in life, or was it kind of the ones that was like, I'm going to stay away from this one because of the bad memories it brought me?
No, I think I saw it once, maybe a few years later. We did kind of skim through it tonight just so I could kind of refresh my memory of those different things that I remembered from them. But I just remember that the thing scared me so bad because it could get in anywhere through the tiniest little crack. And I knew that it was going to come right where that speaker was. And I was in the back seat, and of course my family was in the front seat, and we were all going to die. There was no doubt about it.
It's funny that you say your whole family was going to die, because that's the perfect segue into my next question. Obviously, being 1958, they didn't have too many gratuitous or nasty deaths in the film, but they did have a couple nice deaths in this film. Which death would you say it was that stuck with you the most, or your favorite? However, I hate saying your favorite because that's really dark, but which death from the Blob would you say stuck with you the most? I mean, you do have the big one, right at the beginning, the guy that touches the Blob and it engulfs his hand before
Right.
they take him to the doctor. And what I love about that scene is when he gets to the doctor just leaves and leaves the nurse in the room to go get his gun. And he comes back and the guy's literally just a blob ball on the ground.
Right. Yeah, I think that's what I was trying to think of. I was thinking of that. Yeah, the guy in the very beginning, the older man.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And that was real scary. I don't like stuff like if I'm wrapping boxes to ship and I get the big strapping tape on my hands and I can't get it off. I don't like that feeling. So
Right.
when he had all that stuff on his hand, to me, that's an awful feeling to have your hand wrapped up and you can't get stuff off or tape or the blob. And now it's growing.
Yeah,
It's
the way it
growing on
grows.
you and you can't
Yes.
get it off and nobody knows what it is. Yeah, that's pretty terrifying.
Yeah. And like I said, practically it looks great. Moments like that in this film, they still look really, really good. And you appreciate that they had people there working so hard to make this look well practically. So Sandy, we talk about the Blob and what that movie means to you being your first horror movie. But now I want to throw you a tiny bit of a curveball here for a second. My little buddy Ghostface is here, and he has a question for you. What's your favorite scary movie, Sandy? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
Well, I mean, Halloween, obviously, I consider it obviously my favorite because it's just, it's the one that I can watch over and over and over and over and never get tired of it.
Mhm.
But I do like others. I like Psycho and I like The Shining a lot. I love Scream. So yeah, there's definitely some other ones. I would say one of the most terrifying one that I have not rewatched and probably never will, that my dad also took me to see, was Whatever Happened to Baby Jane.
Oh man, a movie that is not talked about enough.
Yes, that movie, I was maybe 12, and that movie scared me so bad. And to me, I think it still scares me. I don't want to ever see it again.
Mm-hmm.
It is a
You talk
definite
about the
psychological thriller.
Yes, and you talk about the increase of evil children. This is a movie that is not talked about enough when you talk about that genre of film. And well, that's a deep cut. I love that. I love that pick. Um, and I love the fact that, because I'm telling you, like, if I could go back and recount whether it was favorite or first, I've talked about Halloween on this channel 300 times, on doing this. And it's amazing to me that this movie in 1978, that was just this low budget film at the time, people didn't expect so much out of it. They just released another film this year as
Right.
part of this franchise. And it's incredible what horror can do when people genuinely love it. Um, and I'm so happy that this is something that's been a part of your life for such a long time. That's such a special thing. And it's something that, a lot of people, I don't think, really grasp, especially if you're not a big horror fan, how important the Halloween franchise is. My wife, that's her absolute all-time favorite franchise. Her dad would dress up like Michael Myers when he was still alive, and he would go around our town on Halloween and just like look, not in a creepy way, but like look in people's windows, like, it was just like, that was Randy, and all the memorabilia I have of Halloween, I still have the score on the original cassette tape. I mean, like, this is like, and it's something that I don't want to get perverse here, but watching that movie as a young boy, your scene stood out to me. That was a scene that, to me, as a young man, was insane. It was special to me as a young boy. And, obviously I've grown a little bit and I appreciate the art behind it. But as a young boy, it wasn't the art I was looking at. So, I just, again, before, I go through all my rigmarole of the ending of this, I just wanted to say one more time, not just thank you for being here with me, because it genuinely really means a lot, but thank you for helping to start something that I personally would not be the man I am today without that movie. My wife wouldn't be the woman she is, and I'm completely stupid about her. So if you can ever take solace in something, know that you changed a lot of people's lives. Whether it was young Ken watching and being very confused about what was happening in his body at that moment, or 37-year-old Ken watching this movie and just appreciating the art and the love behind everything you guys did on it. So thank you for that. Before I let you go though, Sandy, I have one last question I would like to ask you. We're going to bounce back to the Blob, and what we're going to do here is rank it on a skull count. Now, we're not ranking the Blob on acting, production, score, nothing like that. I think I know the answer to this, Andy, but I still got to ask. We're ranking it on how much it affected you on your first viewing. So 0 skulls being not effective, 5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. Sandy, what would your ranking of the Blob be?
For its effect on me at that time, it was definitely a 5.
I figured as much, especially with the situation that was happening around you. I knew it had to be pretty crazy. So I do want to remind everybody, all of Sandy's social media links are in the description below. So make sure you're checking that out. Sandy, please don't go anywhere. I got a couple more questions for you.
Sure.
Everyone else, as always, keep talking horror, stay who you are, and we'll see you guys soon.